their opinion, and I don't want to see Dave Aranda fired. Like I just said a moment ago, I'm not calling for that. I'm not hoping for that. I want to see how the rest of this season plays out. So I've made that clear, and they can turn it around with 6 more games to go. But based on what we've seen now, there's little reason to believe that they will. And there's little reason to believe that they're just going to capture momentum this offseason or down the stretch, and they're going to have this big run into next year. There's no signs that next year is going to be any better. And this was supposed to be better with 10-plus transfers, and they addressed this. And there's holes everywhere. Like you addressed it, and there's still holes. So that's fine. That's fine. Like, give guys time to develop and all that. But I'm just saying that they're spinning their wheels at best. And this whole thing started talking about Matt Campbell and Iowa State. So I'll just reiterate, I think it's a different situation. I think saying like they had their downward slope and now they're rising back again, it's because people are patient. I think it's a different scenario for Iowa State fans and Baylor fans. I think there's a different standard, and not that anyone's better than the other, but like I said, there's been multiple coaches win Big 12 titles here in the last decade. That's not the case in Ames. They've gotten close, and with Matt Campbell hanging around, I'm sure they can eventually get there, especially in the new Big 12, maybe even this year getting to that championship game. But it's just a different set of circumstances here. It's not apples to apples. It's apples to oranges.
Yeah, and it has been a year, but the trend at the way last year ended, and you kind of could take some of the discussion about that there was a disconnect and whatever was going on, and there still seems to be a little bit of that. It's not as if that staff doesn't understand.
No.
The question is, do they have anybody there inside of that program that can help fix it? And I'm talking about players and talent and personnel. And I've been told I was told that this week, and Dave Aranda kind of said this on Monday at his media session, that they have to look within themselves as a coaching staff and realize there's some things that are not working. Is it you change what you're trying to do? Do you change any personnel? Is there enough personnel there to change it? But this week they have been like blaring the loud music, and the practices seem to be a little bit different. However, does that carry over? Because we've been told it hasn't, between practice and what they do Saturday at Cincinnati.
Yeah, and to the taper expectations, I don't have high expectations, really. I mean, I think making a bowl game is a legitimate expectation. I didn't think that they were going to win a Big 12 title this year. I didn't think they were going to win 10 games. I think winning 6 games and getting to a bowl game is pretty normal, realistic expectations for a program who's in year 4 of a head coach. And if that's not even realistic anymore, is winning 6 games with 8 home games on the schedule and some newbies at that are on that schedule. I mean, I don't think that that's being anything but just kind of standard, and if that's not the standard anymore, then I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Well, you've said that before, watching what you see on offense with the football team. Here's what I do know. You can't sit there, and you must still give Coach Aranda credit because they did win a Big 12 title. He was the head coach in their best year ever, no matter how the setup was with their roster. Does that count for anything at all? 12-2, they'd never done that before. Winning the Big 12, they'd won that twice with Bryles, played for it with Rule, and then also at the same time winning the Sugar Bowl to close out their best year ever. Does that not give him a little more time, or can you give anybody time in this day and age of college football?
Yeah, to be clear, I appreciate everybody's feedback, and we can agree to disagree on expectations and things like that, but I do appreciate those that are chiming in. I think the Big 12 title gives you the leeway that you still have your job right now. Because without that, what is the argument for him? And look, again, I'm not anti-Aranda, but what's happened since then? Like, how long is too long before your only wins are a fourth quarter comeback against UCF and a not very impressive win over Long Island at home, and that's been it for like a year. That's been it, guys. Mm-hmm. That's their wins. So, I mean, how long do you want to go, and how long does that do you get 20 games of just blah before the Big 12 title magic runs out? Do you get 24 games? I don't know. Like I said, I'm not calling for anything, but they've been on a pretty miserable stretch now for going on a year's time in multiple games over the course of these past 2 seasons. So like I said, let's see how this second half plays out. But if they go lay an egg in Cincinnati, and I have to hear about music at practice or taking practice over to the field or the same thing, and that's the other thing. Y'all don't hear the press conferences every week. y'all don't hear the same thing and then the same result on Saturdays. And so we have a little bit more insight, just like Iowa State fans have more insight on what's happening in Ames. And so that's the thing about the Groundhog Day aspect of that is the same thing happens and you hear the same thing about why it happened and how they're going to correct it week after week after week. And so, yeah, he's got cachet for the Big 12 title, but I just feel like you continue on the course that you're on right now, and eventually you're going to be like 20 games beyond that, and you're going to be 10 games under 500, and how much does that still give you ammunition-wise, you know?
Paul, does the 2021 season give him any more time, in your opinion, than the next 6 games the rest of this year?
No, because if he loses all 6 of them, then you have to, like, that's it. Like, you have to.
Which is possible.
Yeah, the problem is it's not just a straight up and down. Do you believe that if you stuck with him, he could figure it out? Because I think if there's a person who's smart enough to figure almost anything out, it's Dave Aranda. He would probably figure it out. The thing is that you're also have to make a business decision, which is the calculus of buyout over ticket sales. And if you're not going to be able to sell tickets to your games, and it's already getting to be a struggle getting people to show up. I mean, the Texas Tech game was not well attended.
Yeah, Saturday night, a rival, and it was like, and it looked, Tech fans didn't turn out the way that I thought that they would either. But yeah, that was
their
like,
stadium.
No.
So you've got fans that are already in the I'm not going for the rest of this year kind of mode. You have to find a way to combat that. The only way to do that is winning. That's it.
That's it.
And so, because it's hard to sell a coach's intellect if they're not winning, because you can say, like, look, this guy's really smart, he did this before. Like, yeah, but college football moves really fast now, and if you look at how quickly programs can get turned around, this is not the old measuring stick of, well, give him 5 years to get his players in there. It is, well, you don't need 5, you really need about 2.5. And
well, it's like I said too, before, like, okay, you got your player in here. Is he gone with NIL next year?
Yeah.
The guys who are actually pretty good because they want to play for a winning team. Like, that's the other danger of the whole, like, well, let's build it. And it's like, okay, if this was the old days where you had guaranteed 4 years from a guy, that's one thing. You don't anymore. You've got 1 year. And that guy can leave in most circumstances. And so this last year, we'll just go hit the transfer portal. We made that mistake 2 years ago. We'll hit it harder. We'll get like 12 guys. Has it changed anything? Those 12 guys? No, it hasn't changed anything.
But does not getting anybody for the 21 to 22 season also create, even if you did get somebody in the offseason, you're still playing catch up? And you're the one that made the decision, so you do have to take that as a hit against what's happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but I mean, like I said, I'll say it the 5th and final time. I'm not rooting for the firing. I want to see how the second half plays out. But a lot of this, like, well, doesn't that help you? I mean, I guess so. But at some point, I mean, are we going to argue about this when the stadium's empty? And that's where it's going. And so go win, like you said. That's the only solution. We could talk about it for hours, and it's not going to impact anything. The only thing that'll impact the situation is go beat Cincinnati. And then go beat, 3 or 4 other teams down the stretch. But if you don't do that, how you could go get 50 transfers this offseason. Who's buying into that?
Colorado.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
I know.
But let's compare the head coaches.
Craig's points about Baylor are valid. However, I would give Dave the rest of the season, all of next year. He's a highly intelligent coach and a history of success with the 2021 season. As miserable as fans are, as frustrated as the fans or maybe even others are, donors, boosters, whoever, those who have equity in the program, that Dave Aranda, this is killing him. Absolutely killing him and the staff. And now they got to find a way to kind of dig out of the ditch, and we'll see what happens starting Saturday against Cincinnati. All right.